Hi, it's Steve Hargadon, and welcome to the closing keynote. Mychal Threets is here. This is the closing keynote of our Supportive Library Conference. We're so appreciative of your being here. We've had a great day so far. I'm going to express real deep appreciation for San Jose State University School of Information for being a 14-year partner in holding these kinds of events. And I'm going to turn the time over right now to Dr. Sandra Hirsch.
Hi, everyone. It's Sandy Hirsch again. I'm the Associate Dean for Academics in the College of Professional and Global Education at San Jose State University. And it has been our pleasure today to sponsor this amazing conference and having this important conversation around how libraries can serve people who are experiencing homelessness. And it was really an outstanding opening keynote session and followed by many wonderful breakout sessions. So I'm grateful to all the contributors so far. And but now I'm very excited to hear from our closing keynote speaker, who Mychal Threets, who happens to be actually an alum of our program here at San Jose State School of Information. We're very proud of him, and we're looking forward to hearing from him. But again, it's our pleasure to put on these and to work with Steve to partner in producing these conferences. I think we're really sparking important conversations on topics that are really meaningful to libraries today. So with that, I would like to turn it over to Kimberly, who will lead us in our closing keynote session. So thank you.
Thank you, Sandy. Well, good afternoon, everybody. We're back from our presentations, and I was able to catch a few, and I felt they were all fantastic, talking about so many great things. I learned about a food pantry in the library and some nice kind of meditative type things that we could use. That was nice. I enjoyed that with holiday. But now I am very excited to introduce you to our closing keynote speaker, Mr. Mychal Threets. He is here to close out our mini conference today. And I just want to say hi, Mychal. It is so awesome to have you here. And I'm just so excited. I forgot what I was going to say. I can't tell you how much it means to me to have you here with us. It's just so special. And I have a few questions for you that I'd like to ask you. And then if there's extra time, you can share a little more, or we can take some questions from everybody, because I will probably have a lot of questions. So if you're ready, I have the first question ready for you.
Yeah, I'm ready when you are. Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
All right. Great. Thank you. Okay. So, Mychal, could you share some stories or examples of when you were able to make a significant and positive impact for patrons experiencing homelessness?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, thank you so much for inviting me to be a part of your guys' mini conference. I am indeed an alumni of San Jose State University. I always tell people that I went through the program far too quickly. I graduated in 4 semesters, which is not at all a humble brag. I always tell people to not do what I did, to take full advantage of their program. I just happen to want to see select people know that I became a librarian with a master's degree. So it is an honor to be supporting San Jose State University and many future library workers, serving the unhoused population. I think that's something also to take note of. From what I found from the unhoused population is that some of them prefer to be called unhoused, some of them prefer to be called homeless. So I think that's also a very good. I think that's the first lesson I learned early on in my career, is to listen to your unhoused, homeless population, to what they want to be called. I think a lot of people, just out of respect, say unhoused. That's always my go-to technique, is to say unhoused. And some people say, nope, I'd rather be called homeless. And I'm like, totally fine. I have not a problem calling you what you want to be called. One of my own cousins, who was raised as my little brother, is currently unhoused. So the unhoused population are very near and dear to my heart. He is unhoused in San Jose, California, of all places. So I often spend a lot of time searching for him to make sure that he has everything that he needs in life. So I'm always eager to support the unhoused population, which is why they're so near and dear to my heart. I think honestly, I think we only have about half an hour of time before you all get to go about your day. I'm sure some of you are not on the West Coast. It could be 5 o'clock where you're at, or it could be 2:30, like where I'm at. But I I probably have stories of the in-house from all 10 years of working 5 days a week, sometimes 6 and 7 days a week at the library. Um, Many positive stories, many stories of people who are now saying thank you for caring about us. I think that's one thing that I learned towards the end of my career is how much many of them were thankful for what I did for the in-house. Not saying that other library people did not do enough for them. I think I have a particular level of empathy. I often find that people like I think I've watched some shows where empathy is a superpower, and people are always like, "I was like the world's worst superpower to have is empathy, just because of what it does to your mind, what it does to your heart, what it does to your soul." But it's something that I truly believe that all library people have a superpower of empathy and being able to reach the unhoused. But right now we're in a state of librarianship where we're very burnt out. And with the exception of Dr. Hirsch and yourself, I'm not sure exactly who is currently a practicing librarian. I don't know if you're all students, if you're just seeking library information, but burnout is very real in the library world, and it's something that has to be acknowledged. And that's why I think it is very real when serving the unhoused population, because they're a particular bunch. Again, I mean, I'm sure many people will agree that the library is indeed for every single person. That's something that I preach, and not only preach, it's something that I firmly believe with all my heart, that the library is for every person. If you're unhoused, if you're homeless, if you're a kid, if you're a teen, if you're an adult, if you're a library grown up, if you have no kids, if you're just if you're new to somewhere, you belong to the library just as you are. You can be anxious, you can be depressed, you could be having a panic attack. You don't have to do so outside of library doors. You can come in and be just as you are. Um, and in believing that, that means that it's going to be that it sometimes, unfortunately, that is very difficult for library staff, because when you welcome people just as they are, sometimes that means that they're having a bad day, and sometimes it means that they're having their worst possible day, which unfortunately means that they often take it out on their beloved local library staff, which is not fair, but it is a reality, where homeless people will say, will take their anger out and curse out library staff. Sometimes they'll even physically touch them. And I would like to start this talk, answer your question. Again, I eventually am going to get to some more positive stories, and say that that's not okay. That's something I always, when I was a supervising librarian, that's something I told my library staff, that um, being verbally assaulted, being physically assaulted would never be acceptable, and I was always there for them. I would always say that I'm going to do whatever I can for you. That's why I've discovered in visiting libraries state to state, city to city, that not every library staff has leadership who will say, if there's a person you're uncomfortable with, if this homeless person has given you problems in the past, we can always switch out. We can always switch out. We can switch desk schedules. I, as a supervisor, was always willing to take on desk hours, extra desk hours. It was important to me that library staff knew that I was right there with them. We were all in the trenches together. So I didn't want to be in my office working on email, working on time cards, all hours of the day, which is very difficult as a library leader. That's a big part of the job. But for me, it was more important to say, I'm here for you. An open door policy is an action. Open door policy is not just lip service. If you're having trouble, if you're having problems, we can figure this out. But to say is also on the flip side is, there's a lot of library staff, because of that burnout that I mentioned earlier, because of just lack of respect from some library people. Unfortunately, it means that they don't treat the unhoused population as they should, which is with empathy, which is with kindness. They can be a volatile bunch, they can be a tough bunch, but I found that just saying hello to them every single day. That's such a simple start. Just saying hello every single day, building that rapport. I've had times where like they would leave their carts outside of the library. So all my experience I'm talking with you about is public library experience. I've never been an academic librarian. I've never been a school librarian. I have great respect, but I don't have direct experience in that. But as a public librarian, I would see carts out front, and I'd have to put, as a leader, I'd have to put on my blue gloves, my black gloves, and I have to try to remove their carts. And I'd have unhoused people come up to me like, "Hey, man," I mean, they'd say it's much more harsh language, and they say, "What are you doing? Like, that's mine. Why are you touching that?" And I'm like, I'm so sorry. I have no problem with it being here. I have some people coming to the library soon. I didn't know who it was. I didn't know where you were. I'm not stealing your stuff. I'm moving it aside away from the walkway. You're basically just treating them with respect, telling them that I acknowledge what they're going through. I acknowledge how real it was. And I say, often in those instances, it wouldn't always be met with respect right away. I think that's something that I had to learn, is that in addressing the unhoused population, it takes time. Same as it takes time as a children's librarian to build rapport as a storytime presenter. It takes days, it takes weeks, it takes months to build rapport with the homeless community. That's why saying hi, asking how are you really, was so important to me as a library leader. I think I had, in a year of being a supervising librarian, I had nearly 200 incidents that I filed, that I had decided to I had to write up myself, many of them involving the restrooms. I'm one of those library people who does not like many horror stories of public restrooms in library land. Um, but even with all those incidents, even with all those things, I think for me it was important to just say, hey, I see where you're at. Whenever I even amongst those 200 plus incident reports, like addressing the reports, addressing the problem behavior, and saying, hey, like, are you safe? I learned that meant so much to people who are unhoused, is asking them truly, are you safe? That question alone is not something that they're used to being asked. It is actually caring for their safety, worrying about their safety. Even if I know that I'm going to have to suspend this person for what they said, just saying like, hey, are you safe? First and foremost, I acknowledge that you're a human being, just like me. You're a neighbor. You're in my community. I want to make sure that you're okay. So that's, I think, turning these stories into more positivity. Is even when I had to like give them bad news, they were suspended for a week, for 2 weeks, for a month, and even when they would curse me out for suspending them for 3 months to a year, there are many times where I've actually had to suspend somebody indefinitely from the library, um, and telling people, say, hey, like, I'm so sorry. I know that I want you to come here, but this is a rule that you broke. I mean, library rules are so easy to follow. There's very few rules. We just want you to come in just as you are. Um, and just telling people, if you treat me with respect, if you treat my people, more importantly, with respect, more so than myself, I always cared more about the library users and the library workers than myself, is saying, if you do that, I can work with you. I can go to bat for you with library administration, saying, hey, they had a bad day. They're mentally ill. They don't have enough. They don't have enough help. I have a lot of mental health problems myself. I would want help. So that's something I treated them how I would want to be treated if I was in that position. If my cousin who was homeless was in that position, what would I do? That's what I tried to do. So saying hi, treating them like people, treating them like I wanted to be treated. Went to so far. So much so that eventually, like when I started to leave library, saying like, hey, there are other people who, because of what they've been through in the library world, because they're burnt out, no fault of their own, um, they're not gonna go to bat for you. They want you. Unfortunately, they want you away from this area. And I'd have homeless people, I'd have people shaking my hand, saying, "Hey, we know that you go above and beyond for us. Thank you for treating us like people." And that's just like confirmation that that's all they care about, is being treated like people. Yeah, sometimes they're still gonna go off on you. It's just a reality of people, of the human brain being the human brain. But I think empathy, like true empathy, not just lip service empathy, not just that's what you're supposed to do, but mean it as much as possible. And also acknowledging that you have a bad day. I'd have times where I would have those problems. I'd have these behaviors, and I would say, you know what? I'm sorry for how I reacted. I'm sorry that I was short with you. I'm sorry that I kind of raised my voice when I told you to get off the loading deck. This area is for staff. This area is for staff only. Um, it's been a hard time. And they were like, no worries. We get it. It's hard. It's a hard day for us. And then we come back, we'd shake hands, we'd fist bump, whatever we were all comfortable with. And I think that's what it is. So like those are there's so many stories of just seeing them, or even being in the public restroom and saying, hey, I know it's probably you. I know I have no proof, but just try to be respectful. I think just being honestly, just being a human being, just showing showing my own lived experience, knowing the experiences means so much. I don't have any perfect answers to answer your question, any perfect story. I think just like a simple hello, same as interrupting someone who doesn't want to go to the next day, someone who may be close to the edge, to the breaking point. It's the same for the unhoused community. It's just they're people just like the rest of us. Sometimes they were well off, things happened. Sometimes they're so you never know what happened. I think that's the best way to approach this. I don't know where this person's at in life. I don't know if they're anger, but how do I break through? Like just telling somebody, I can only help you if you're gonna help me. I've had people yelling, screaming at me, and I always say, I hate to say I left, but I always enjoyed, for lack of a better word, telling people I can't help you if you're yelling at me. if you just if you work with me, I'm like, I already have a lot of intrusive thoughts. I have a lot of things going on in my own mind. I can't help you when you're trying to battle those. And almost every time those would like break through to the people yelling at me, give me problems. Like, they would like chuckle, they'd give even a little giggle sometimes, which is always my favorite reaction. Just like, okay, we'll get there, we'll get somewhere. And ultimately, I think my favorite stories of dealing with the unhoused, the homeless, is telling them like, even at the worst case scenario, even telling them like, oh, you're suspended from the library for um, whatever period of time it is, saying, hey, I know you're suspended, but it doesn't mean you can't come back to the library for help. If your life is in danger, if you're being chased, if you need medical attention, you can still come into the library. Let whichever person you see first say, "Hey, this is what's going on. I need help." We will still help you. And I think that always meant to the world, people to know that even though you're suspended from library services, which again is very, very hard to do, it doesn't mean that library people are not going to help you. If your life is in danger, if you're worried about your own life, we will call 911, we will call whatever community service, and we will find a way to reach you, because that's just that's what library people do. They reach their community. They're the neighbors that Mr. Rogers always talked about.
Wow, well, thank you. I you kind of covered a lot there, and I could really resonate with a lot that you said, though I feel like some of your experiences are the same that I've had as well. But yeah, there's so many. I love everything. And I wrote it down, and I'm gonna keep it with me. It's, are you safe? Because I feel like that is such an important question to ask. And so, well, the second question that I had for you, kind of, you've already talked a little bit about, but it was, I mean, it's just to solidify that libraries really do play a unique role in like helping unhoused patrons, but also like helping like anybody, and also, you know, anyone who's vulnerable. So the question was, what is the most rewarding thing that's happened to you? But I don't know if you want to just share. Just keep sharing everything that, yeah.
Their most rewarding thing that's happened to me in general with the unhoused
I think,
population, all the
yeah,
above.
well, yeah, kind of with if some, you know, maybe someone vulnerable or who needed help, but you already shared a bunch, but if you have more.
Yeah, I think a couple of specific situations. The most rewarding is there was I won't give out their name just because of privacy and
Yeah.
keeping who they are safe. But I think that also goes into something I just thought of. It just I think in addition to saying like, "Are you safe?" instead of like just making those connections is a true connection. I think I would always start every interaction I had, negative, positive, by introducing myself. I would always say, "Oh, my name is Michael. My name is Michael with the library." I would never necessarily say my title. I wouldn't say supervising librarian, children's librarian, library assistant, library aide, library shelf, or wherever I was. I just said, "Oh, my name is Michael. I'm with the library." I'd always know it. I'd always like hold up my badge, just to acknowledge I'm not just a person talking down. Like, "Oh, I'm with the library. That's why I'm interrupting your day." And I think it always helps for me to say my name is Michael. One, to help me just unfortunately for incident reports, people like, "Hey, my name is Michael." Now I can get their name in case they're at this point where it's like, it's because I've gotten to this point where I'm like, there is true safety concerns, which is something to acknowledge, is that unfortunately there are times when some people just, I think that's also part of it. It's not always a library day for every single person. That's why I always tell people like, "Oh, this is not a library day for you. I'm so sorry." I'd have times where like people would be outside the library and they would like, there would be women who would accidentally flash me in their anger just because they're schizophrenic, they're going through whatever, and they'd be like, "Oh, this," and like, "Oh, can I come to the library?" And I'm like, "You know what? I'm so sorry. It's not a library day." And they're like, "Oh, but what about this and this?" I'm like, "Oh, you just did this to me. I'm so sorry. You can't come in." I'm like, "Oh," and they're like, "Oh, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do this to anybody else. I promise." And I'm like, "I believe that you promised that, but I don't. I'm not confident that you can control that behavior. It's not a library day today. Maybe you can come in tomorrow. You can check with me. We'll see where you're at. Maybe tomorrow will be like the perfect library day for you." Just making those connections, and then just by introducing myself, saying my name, it allowed them to say their name back to me, and then we could make that from then on. And they say, "Oh, hey, so and so, how's today going? Hey, did you sleep? Did you sleep well? Where were you last night? I missed you. I missed you yesterday. Like, when I'm away for Saturday and Sunday. Hey, how was your weekend? Did you do anything fun? Did you meet anybody new?" All those sorts of things. I just mentioned that. It's just an aside. I just thought of that. But again, back to the person who said I won't say their name, but I remember one day they were essentially like passed out in the freezing cold. And my library did something very, very cool. inspired by the DC Public Library, where I was blessed to get a bunch of donations of a blanket donations for the in-house. It's something that DC Public Library launched, and then I saw the idea on Instagram, and I rolled with it. So I had a bunch of the internet was very kind to help me with donations of blankets, and we were able to give those out to people. And during this very, very cold time, this person would also be right out front of the library. My library had a bunch of glass doors so we could see outside. And the person would just collapse outside the library. And one of my staff members let me know that they had not been moving for a while, but they were still moaning and grumbling. So I went out there. I checked on this person. They're like, "Oh, I can't move." I was like, "Oh, do you want me to call 911?" They're like, "No, I'm going to move eventually. I promise. I'm just very retired." So I said, "Okay, I'm going to come check on you." In just a little bit, I went back to my office. The other person said, "Hey, the person is really still struggling out there. I don't know if they're okay. It's getting less frequent." So I went out back there. I said, "Hey, I'm so sorry. I'm gonna have to call. I'm gonna have to call 911. I'm gonna have to get you some help." I said, "Please don't." I said, I'm not getting into trouble. I'm not gonna call the police. The fire station is right next door. I'm gonna ask the dispatcher if it can be the fire station who comes by, not the police." So the fire station was kind enough. They came by. They checked on the person. They were able to get him to stand up, and then eventually go about their day. I mentioned that because I let that person know. I checked on them throughout the day. And I'm like, "Oh, hey, I'm so glad to see you, Stan. So glad to see you still here." Um, and that's one of my most rewarding moments because like after that point, that person like just kept telling me, they were like, "Hey, I'm still doing okay. I'm still standing. I'm still going on." Like no matter how they were like throughout the whole day, eventually at some point they'd be like, "Hey, I'm still standing." And like that's always been like so important for me to for that person to always be like, "I'm still standing." Like just that simple sentence day in and day out, "I'm still standing," was like such a library victory. They sometimes they would never come inside the library, but every once in a while they come in there and they would get on the computer, they check their email, and they just go about their day. But by far the most rewarding experiences have always been the people um, who have always come up to me and just said, "Hey, like you have said that you saved my life for whatever reason." I never knew how I saved people's life, and to this day, I don't think I ever saved anybody's life. But I think just checking on people, it's the same thing that other library people do. It's the same thing I mentioned earlier. That's what library people do. It's just a duty. It's just a service we share to connect with the community, to connect with our library people. And sometimes it saves people without us knowing it. And I'm lucky enough to been told sometimes my library people, more importantly to me, have been told that they save those people's lives just by interacting with them, just by treating them with human beings. So that's why I love to tell people is that you never know who you're going to reach as a library worker by treating people with respect. By even if other people may think that they're less than, that's just where they're at. They're there. That they recognize you. They see you as their beloved heroes, as their neighbor, as their community. That's so important. I think that's always been my favorite part of being a librarian, of being a library worker. And then as a lifelong children's librarian, I think I think we have maybe time for a few questions. Is I've always loved that library kids um, never see unhoused people any different than anybody else. Like whenever I've gotten complaints about unhoused people, homeless people, it's never once been from a library kid, and very rarely from like a grown up of a library kid. Library kids always see those people as people. They're like, "Ah, hello, sir. Hello, ma'am. Hello, whomever." They never shy away. They never flee. And I think so. I've always honestly just tried to reach the unhoused people, just like a library kid would. We're just that they're regular people, regular people, just like the rest of us. And that's what I'm at. It's so hard. It's such a struggle. There's so much burnout in being a library person. But there's also so much struggle, so much tough days, and being an unhoused person. So I always figured that we're all burnt out. We're all struggling together. Why not try to meet them where they're at? Could be each of our worst days. I wouldn't want someone to um, think of me little on my worst day. So why not do the same and see if I can impact them with some positivity and some goodness as well.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. So that was the only questions I had for you. I had more, but
Kimberly,
yes.
are you seeing that someone put a question in the Q&A?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, if
Okay.
anybody has a question, please put it in the Q&A because Mychal would love to, has a few more minutes to answer, right?
Yes.
So Mychal, this question is, do librarians, especially children's librarians, visit homeless shelters or homeless camps? and regarding connections on reading resources and to help with activities. And it's because some of the unhoused do not come to the library.
Oh, that's a great question. I don't think in my experience, children's librarians do not. I would not say especially visit homeless shelters. I'd probably say that adult services librarians and outreach librarians tend to visit shelters more than children's librarians. Children's librarians, in my experience, spend a bit more time working on story times, working on after school programs at the library, visiting schools and daycare centers. But they do, because I think that's also, so that's, I love that question because it acknowledges that children are unhoused, and it also acknowledges that oftentimes we don't know who's homeless, we don't know who's unhoused. I think that's a part library people often forget, is that even though of course we're used to like a particular type of person who looks unhoused, homeless, there's one that doesn't mean that they are. And oftentimes you may see a kid, you may see an adult wearing the most pristine suit. You could see someone in a tuxedo, and you never know, that could be the only attire of clothing that they have. So I appreciate that. I appreciate that thought. But I think no, but library people do. They do visit homeless shelters because of it's often difficult for people to get to the library if it's a mile away, if it's 5 miles away. So I think that's important for library people to do, is to visit as many places as possible to provide them with resources, either if it's a mobile library, if it's reminding them that that there are resources, that there are audiobooks, that there is Hoopla Digital, that there is Canopy, that there is Libby by Overdrive, that there's a whole host of things that library people could do to meet the needs of the homeless community, the in-house community, even if that community cannot physically make it down to the library. So yes, it's not necessarily, it's not the children's librarian's job per se, but it is something that luckily and kindly library people do all the time, is visit shelters, is visit places where they are in need, which is of course libraries are everywhere. So that's where library people are needed, is everywhere.
Okay. So here's another question. How did you foster buy-in from your admin, for a specialty program like the blanket collection? Did you have to get the
this is
or
probably,
did you just do it?
no, I was gonna say this is a dangerous answer with Dr. Hirsch and possibly the library people here. So I did indeed just do it. I just forced it to happen. My library director at the time has once said, ask for forgiveness later, and I very much just took advantage of that. And I was also just like, I'm just asking for library donations. What's the worst that could happen? And my worst case scenario was I would just give them to nearby library systems to give out, or I would just wait until 5 or 6 o'clock when I was off, and I would just go give them the blankets. Anyways, so I'm a very dangerous library person to follow. I will I will acknowledge that. But no, but my library administration did buy in. They love the idea, as DC Public Libraries administrator did. It was just a very cool way to be able to give someone a simple thing like a blanket. There was no criteria. There wasn't anything to fill out. It would just, do you need a blanket? We didn't ask what they needed it for. We just gave it out. So I mean, I have a quiet speaking voice. I'm a reserved person, but I have a loud library voice on the internet. So I just said, hey, maybe I saw again, DC Public Library is a great idea, and I said, hey, let's roll with it. And we gave out thousands of blankets. I still have more blankets to give out. I mean, it's summertime, but people are still unhoused. They still need blankets to lie on the street. So so yeah, unfortunately, I just went with it. I just hoped it would be taken well, and then they were like, yeah, you want to give blankets to the people? We don't. I mean, for them, they were like, I mean, even better. Doesn't take any of our budget.
Right.
Please do. So, and I think to be fair, I think they would have loved to have used the library budget to be able to help that community as well.
So Michael and Kimberly, we are at the close, but we have 5 more questions. Michael, are you under any time constraints? Could we keep going? Or how about you, Kimberly?
I have a little bit of time.
If
Yeah,
it's
a little
okay.
bit of time for you. Yeah.
I just wanted to tell Michael that you have so many amazing comments in the chat. There's some are so grateful for you, your wisdom, positivity,
That's so kind.
and kindness. You're fantastic online presence. And then thank
That's
you so
thoughtful.
much. You're inspiring. I just want you to hear all this because, you're awesome. And just thank you. Oh,
Thank you.
someone said thank you for reminding me why I chose to work in the library. You're totally
Ah,
contagious. That's awesome.
that's
Yeah.
thoughtful.
So
I
so
appreciate that.
many thank yous. Okay, so over to the questions. Oh, I like this one. How do you balance being so welcome and gracious with those experiencing homelessness? And basically, the librarians expect, so they're asking, like, how do you be gracious and balance that and be welcoming, but also you have to be the librarian and you have expectations to help them, but you have burnout and frankly, you're not paid enough. That's what the question is.
No, that's a very real question. I don't honestly have I don't have an answer. I have an answer from for myself, but I wouldn't say that my answer would necessarily help anybody else. I think for me it was what I said. I think I'm the unique experience of having a person who is unhoused in my family. So I have always kept that in mind. It's like what would I want to do if I saw my cousin who was like my brother out on the streets. That always played a lot. Um, but also, I think just being able to rely on other burnt out library workers, is asking them for help, asking them for insight as to how they would go about things, and also asking for people for help, and also taking breaks. I think it took me a very long time, honestly, very recently, to be like, you know what, it's not all on me. Where I would feel very down. Or I'd be like, you know what, I have to go. I need to stay until 8 o'clock. I have to stay until closing in case these people need me. Um, and there's other library people who would be like, you know, I feel the same way, but I think you would tell me, other people would tell me, you gotta go home. You can't help them if you can't come back the next day, if you don't have enough energy, if you don't have energy at all.
Right.
So that would happen. And I think also just acknowledging that I would also sometimes have some bad days, some hard days where I did just have to stay in my office, where I had to stay in my cubicle at the front desk, where I'd have to stay in the children's library, where I'd have to stay at a school and just help as many kids, where I'd have to hear their silly stories, right? I have to hear them making fun of my hair, making fun of my Fortnite dance, whatever it may be. So I think just yeah. I mean, I don't have a definitive answer, but I think just finding happiness, finding joy, even if it's in joy of a ruthless library kid. Um, but also just being like, you know what, I mean, we're alike. I mean, they have bad days, I have bad days, and sometimes I can't help them like I would hope to, and I have to accept that as hard as it is. I think that's hard for library people to do, is to acknowledge that we can't help everybody. But I think most importantly is it's important to acknowledge that we can't help everybody every single day. It doesn't mean that you can't eventually help them. And maybe Tuesday, maybe you could help them on a Thursday, maybe you could help them 5 months from then. And I think that's as hard as there's only most of us only work 8 hours max per day. Hopefully, you're only working 40 hours per week. That's something that took me a long time to find. There's only so many people. I think that's what we have to tell ourselves. It's like just to do what you can in your time. And that's why burnout happens, because the library people are so compassionate. We care so much about the community. All types of libraries, academic librarians, school librarians, public librarians, medical librarians, shelvers, all the way to leaders, whoever you may be. And that's what we have to do. And that's why we have to work. Ultimately, we have to work together. Um, that's the hardest part, is people, is line staff who don't think that they have support of their leadership. And sometimes that's true. Sometimes there's not enough support from leadership. And that's why library line staff have to acknowledge a lot that leadership has hard days that they don't know about. Leaders have to realize like how much stress, how much pressure they're putting on line staff, and have to realize what's realistic. Like, what can we actually tell them? Like, when are they being honest? When are they just being yes people, for lack of a better way? Like, when can you step in as a leader? I mean, when can line staff be vulnerable and say, you're asking too much? We're burnt out. We're mentally ill. We need help. And help us. Don't just ask us how you can help us, but give us some suggestions. We may reject all those ways that you can help us, but at least we know for a fact. We can't say that you're not trying, you're not offering services. That way that we can help ourselves and we can help our community as well.
As someone said, this helped me fall in love with being a librarian all over again. Love your attitude about being all about the people we serve. Aw. Okay. I was also thinking, Mychal, too, like inside of all of that is self-care and how you have to take care of yourself sometimes. Like you said, I love all
Yeah.
of the things that you said. Sometimes I just can't go into work because I gotta take, it's not a library day for me.
Yes.
So let's see, what else? I don't know if you can speak to this one or not. It says, how can the young women staff gain confidence serving homeless patrons, especially when many homeless patrons are men? And how can they draw boundaries around unwanted attention? You think you can have any ideas on that?
I mean, I'm not the person I don't think I'm the person to ask that question. Fairly not saying it's not a fair question. I just don't think that I don't have an answer that would truly help. I think kind of like I said earlier, just working together with your staff. I've had some of the incidents that I mentioned involved sexual harassment to my female staff, and those are people I was referring to, saying, yeah, I as library leader was like, yeah, if that person comes in, I'll switch desk hours with you. I'll take your desk hours. Don't even have to switch. I'll just take it. I think after time, that's when the other staff members would just like step in with like not without my support, but like without like telling me. They would just be, I'm taking your hour. Hey, so and so, this person's here. I know they've given you a problem. I know that they've kind of invited a lot of fear into your life. Let's switch. Kind of just like creating that culture of togetherness, of unity. I think that's the biggest thing that I would say is just building unity, building camaraderie, and especially just being honest about like where you're at, about your feelings, about your fear. I think that's what people need to hear. Again, talking from library leadership, that's what library leadership needs to hear. Is unfortunately, again, talking about burnout, but even more than burnout, there's a lot of fear as a library worker. There's a lot of struggle, and like for library leadership to be forced to address it and to say, hey, this is what we need to do. This is how I can go to the city council, to the state, to the government, whomever is above them. This is the support that we need. It takes the honesty so we can say, this is uncalled for. This is unacceptable for this person to feel this unsafe around this community. It's not their fault. This is what happens day in and day out. So I think a big thing, like I was never the best at the buddy system. I would just go head on, address things and be like, this is it. But that's my privilege being able to do so. So for that person's question, I think utilizing the buddy system is just, you know what, here's my library buddy for the day. We're going to address this. We're going to tackle this on. It's being like, oh, here's what I'm talking to, and just showing that like you as a library person have constant support from the other staff. It's just like, even if it may not be the same person every day, that way whoever's giving you trouble, whoever's harassing you knows that one, it's uncalled for behavior. It won't be tolerated. Yeah, a person like me who's sympathetic, who wants to help people, will say, yep, there may be another library day, but there also is a line that you can't cross, and there still is rules to follow. There still are expectations of safety, especially for library staff. Library staff deserve everything good. They deserve to be respected, supported, and celebrated. And then again, that buddy system just allows people to say, yep, if I mess with this person, eventually this person is going to come around. They're going to see it and they're going to address it, even if this person may appear like I can just treat them this way. One, it's not so, but the next person's going to come out and say, nope. And then their buddy's going to come out, their buddy's going to come out, their buddy's going to come out. So I think other people are far more equipped to answer that question than I am, but I think that's a climate, that's a culture that I attempted to create to make sure that as many staff members as possible felt safe and felt comfortable coming back to work each and every day.
Yeah, that's great. No, I totally agree with you with the buddy system, and just, yeah, I'm also one of those people that we go by myself. Oops, you're not supposed to do that. But so let's see. We have a couple more here. This one, maybe we can get, I don't know, a little more on this one. It says, how would you go about to help homeless people if your town does not have a homeless shelter, and besides just giving them other references? So we're talking about maybe like sharing resources with them.
Oftentimes I think that's something to accept, is that oftentimes the only thing you can do is share resources. I know it's hard to hear, but if there's not a shelter, that's all you can really do is offer those resources and say, and basically like, hey, and also work with them to show them how you're searching, to show them that you mean what you say that you're like, here's what I found. Here's this service on Google, here's this in our community. But also using your outreach skills, using your partnership skills to form relationships with maybe members like the mental health teams in police departments. If your police department is lucky to have that kind of team, nurses and doctors on staff who are prone to helping the homeless and saying, hey, here's who I'll reach out to. Here's this church. Here's this center. Even if it's not a homeless shelter that is known to help with the homeless community, they go above beyond. I can make a call. If you can come back in an hour, come back tomorrow. I'll have an answer for you. Just go about that way. So I've always found that those are ways to help people, because so many people are computer literate who are in house. So they're not able to search for themselves. So I think just for them, seeing you working on it yourself and knowing what they can do, knowing that you're trying so hard to help them means so much. They're like, even if that's not the perfect answer, at least it's a start so they can use your reference to create more references. So I think reference building, using your own partnerships, using your own connections is a way to find them connections and also to build up their trust in places like the library, but also for them to understand that library people, as much as we care, are not mental health professionals. We're not homeless resource professionals. We're just doing all we can to help people, but that's not necessarily our job. But we all know that, and we all wear that unofficial hat. But that way they can see, like, yeah, it's not their job, but they're still going to do it as best they can. And, even though it's not their job, they're going to try. They're going to try their best, and they'll put us in the right direction. So if the library people can't find it, then um, maybe it's not out there, but at least like they check, and we can at least keep on coming back there and searching day and again. And they're like, you know what? Maybe I came in on Monday, they couldn't find something. Maybe Tuesday, they'll try again. They'll find something.
Yeah. And some
Kimberly,
folks,
can I jump in?
yeah.
So we do have a new forum discussion for the conference. It's on there's a box on the main conference description page with the forum listing, and it will be with the recordings. I think we keep getting questions coming in.
Yeah.
Maybe let's direct to that forum, and people can answer. Are you comfortable closing now?
Yeah. How you feel, Michael? Yeah.
Yeah,
Good.
whenever you're
Yeah.
ready.
You're a fantastic.
Appreciate it.
Everyone, I just the comments are just, everyone is just so happy and has learned a lot. And I think that this is great, and we should keep having these kind of discussions.
Yeah.
People. Yeah. I think we're good.
Thank you,
Awesome.
Kimberly. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for coming. And thank you, Michael, so much.
Been on. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. All right.
Thanks, everybody. We'll go ahead and close now. The recordings will be up early next week. Please do join that forum discussion area if you'd like. And we do post not only the recordings, but the chat logs. So if you saw something fly by in the chat and you want to see it later, they will go up. Take care. Bye now.
Bye. Thank you.